Hello, my name is Frank Bolio from Sanibel Ojibwe Nation. We ko itong gak andek giwinigo tago mapundo dem. I'm here on Treaty 1 Nation land here, and we are interviewing all our nations off reserve and on reserve membership.
My name is Tim Daniels. I'm from the Long Plain First Nation. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Treaty 1 Development Corporation. My main function here at the Treaty 1 Development Corporation is to oversee the administration of the Development Corporation, and also working on planning and design for the Nawe Udana. What Treaty 1 means to me is that we are a nation, within a nation, and that we're a sovereign nation, and we entered into a treaty with Her Majesty, establishing us as a nation, sovereign nation. And there's always languages used as the nations around here entered into a treaty with Canada. Well, that wasn't necessarily the case. It was entered into treaties with Her Majesty, and at that time Canada was still a dominion of Great Britain. So the treaty establishes our we have our own rules and laws and language and people and land, and we were here since time immemorial. But that treaty establishes that we were here, and so does the Royal Proclamation of 1763 that we were here first, and that if there's to be settlers moving here, they have to enter into treaties with us. So the treaties are our foundational documents establishing us as a nation within a nation. What they need to know is, I guess, the history leading up to why the treaties were signed with the First Nations in this territory. So do your research. Educate yourself on our history. Going back to 1763 of the Royal Proclamation, and why the Europeans entered into treaties with us. But one of the most important things to understand about the treaties is that we agreed to share the land, and that we're supposed to cohabitate peacefully in this territory, and that we would share the lands and the resources, and not to be squandered as they have been throughout since the signing of treaties. Yeah, it's important. It's important for people to understand that First Nations have the ability to create their own laws and bylaws, and that we're a sovereign nation, and it's not the other way around. We have a nation-to-nation relationship with the federal government and Her Majesty. So it's important to understand that. Really important to understand that we're not be viewed as a lesser government like a municipality. Municipality, yes, they may govern the cities and their rural municipalities, but they still answer to the province. They still answer to the federal government. Whereas us, First Nations, we deal directly with the federal government, not answer to the municipalities as such. Protect our children. Do all you can to protect our children. Knowing what's gone on, since the signing of treaties, and since the settlers have started to arrive here in this territory. It's like protect our children, protect our women, protect our lands, because those three things have been attacked, over and over again. So do your best you can to protect our children, our women, and our land. Be clear in the language that you're speaking of. It's unfortunate that there was two different languages, and we had our own language, but a lot of that has been left up to interpretation since the 1870s, and the language of that treaty and all other treaties. So be clear. Be clear on the language you use, because again, left for interpretation. We've gained some, but we've also lost lost some in the sense of I wouldn't let other parties. I wouldn't let another party be part of this treaty. You know, for instance, the province of Manitoba. You know, now through federal legislation and federal law, you know, the 1930 Natural Resources Transfer Act became law, where the provinces became, you know, the stewards, if you will, of the land. But we didn't agree to that. We didn't agree to that 60 years before that, you know, prior to that. So, I mean, you know, that's a legal act in our eyes. Is that the province is responsible for the lands and resources. We never agreed to that. So, be clear on the language, but also, I guess, knowing what we know today is protect our children, our women, our land. I think my vision for the next 150 years is for us to have our rightful place in the governance of this country, and not be viewed as problems or children. That we've reached an advanced stage where we can govern ourselves and also govern this country. You know, I mean, but by saying advanced, I would say by European education that our First Nations people have gone through over the years and have excelled in their areas of engineering, education, governance, politicians, sports, and you know, so we've excelled in that framework of European education, so I mean we're at par and we excel in a lot of those areas. So to have a seat in the Canadian government, you know, and a First Nations party, you know, to sit there at the table with them too, and to have a say in our people's affairs, and not to be left from people living in Ontario and Quebec. Because, you know, Ontario and Quebec, they hold the balance of power in this country, with all the seats they have in the House of Commons. So to spread it out evenly and fairly, have our First Nations representatives at the House of Commons in our own party. Some of the favorite things in my community is Long Plain is looked at for strong leadership. You know, we've been very fortunate to have some very strong leaders in our history of Long Plain. Whether it's our leadership of governance or economic development or otherwise. So I believe Long Plain has some strong leaders and has had some strong leaders. So leadership comes to mind when I think of Long Plain First Nation. One of my favorite things about Long Plain First Nation too is our land. We're nice southern sunny Manitoba, so having that that warmer weather and being close to urban centers is also a great bonus, in terms of shopping. Like if we need to shop, we could come to Winnipeg, and we're like about an hour and 50-minute drive from Winnipeg, whereas some reserves are great distance, 10-hour drives, or you have to fly in. So we're kind of fortunate that way to be close to the urban centers for the opportunities. As a lot of our First Nations people have had to leave their communities, to find employment or to take go to school or something like that. So just the closeness of where we are in this province, that we're close to these urban centers.
On August 3rd, 2021 marks 150 years of the signing of the Treaty Number 1. The Treaty 1 Nation, along with T1DC, TRCM, and Parks Canada, will be hosting 150th Treaty Number 1 commemoration. For update information, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. and check out our website for a list of events. And thanks for watching. Miigwech.